What's good, everyone? Today we're going to be doing a trade period wrap-up ahead of the final day of the trade period. Just like last year, I'll be going through every single trade that has been completed as of so far on the Tuesday. And then afterwards, I'll be going through every single team and briefly covering sort of what you're going to be expecting from the teams and what they're going to be looking at ahead of the final day. So we'll start off on the first day of the free agency period on the 6th of October, and it was the Swans who have been one of the more busy sides, I have to say, so far in terms of who they've gotten. They picked up James Jordan in return for pick 39 from the D's, and I feel like James Jordan is certainly a good get for them. He's played 65 games for the D's, a premiership player, uses the ball well. I think personally the Swans got a pretty good deal here as an unrestricted free agent. I think he'll play a few games for the Swans and be a best 22 player. The next free agency deal we saw get completed was Matt Flynn heading to the Eagles in exchange for pick 40 for the Giants, an unrestricted free agent, going to help with their ruck stocks for sure, and a bit of a chop out for Bailey Williams. Of course, West Coast, they are prioritising this trade period as much as they are the draft, and what they're going to do with pick 1 as we'll sort of discuss a little bit later on, but acquired a need, and it was a deal that was always really expected to get done. We then saw the Swans pick up another player, this time with Joel Hamling. The Dockers didn't receive any play in compensation, pretty much an unrestricted free agent. So the Swans getting Joel Hamling for pretty much nothing. And given, the weakness that they've had in their defensive stocks over the last couple of years, definitely a player that I wouldn't expect to be in their best 22, given that he's sort of falling out of favour a little bit. But, when injuries arise, I think certainly someone like a Joel Hamling will certainly be a helpful addition for sure. Next deal that we saw get done, I think this was the first trade to get done, and this is Tom Duday heading to the Lions in exchange for an end of round 1 compensation pick, which ended up being pick 19 for the Crows, so I guess in a way it's probably worth it. Now, of course, the Crows didn't want to let go of him, obviously one of the better young promising defenders at the Crows, but I'd say getting pick 19 in exchange for Duday probably is a win for the Crows, as much as Duday is a pretty important player for them. I don't really know if he's worth pick 19, so they can go into the draft and possibly get an even better youngster in return for him. We then saw Todd Goldstein head from North Melbourne to Essendon for a 1-year deal as an unrestricted free agent. North getting nothing in return, but obviously North were going to get rid of him anyways, so it wasn't really that big of a deal for them. I think he could be a decent addition to them. I think Goldstein's still arguably a top 5-6 ruckman in the league at his best. Yeah, I don't expect him to be at the Bombers for too much longer, maybe 1 or 2 more years. He did sign a 1-year contract, and I think he could be a handy acquisition for the Bombers. They don't really have a premier ruckman. I mean, Draper's probably their best at the moment, so I think he'll probably play, most games if he's fit and healthy. Now, this is certainly one of the bigger deals so far mentioned in the video. Another North player heading towards the Bombers, and the Bombers acquired Ben Mackay for a really big contract. I think over 6 years at $800K, if I'm not mistaken. Now, because of the fact Mackay is the youngest possible age of a free agent that he can be at 25, and the fact that he's being paid at over $800,000 at the Bombers, which I don't think is worth the price, but the Bombers are just in desperate need of a key defender like that, and I feel like there's no other option on the table than getting Mackay. And because of that, North Melbourne receive a compensation pick of pick 3. Obviously, because of the fact that they finished low on the ladder, they get a higher draft pick. I think, for sure, North Melbourne are fine with that deal. They didn't really like Mackay anyway, and getting pick 3 for it for pretty much nothing isn't a bad return. I think both parties in a way win, because obviously Essendon didn't have to give up the pick themselves. I think this is the last deal to get done on the first day of the trade period. The Dogs got James Harms in exchange for a future 3rd round pick. Now, obviously, James Harms hasn't really been in the best of form, playing, of course, as of late more in the reserves, so not getting as much of an opportunity. But I still think he's worth more than a future 3rd, and I think he can get more game time with the Dogs as well, so I don't know if the D's were going to get more than for future 3rd, but I feel like the Dogs probably win this trade in a way. Then we saw North make another play, getting Dylan Stephens, a top 5 draft pick as well. So yeah, Stephens hasn't really played much footy. I think only the 11 games through injury. North Melbourne acquired him as well as pick 25, and the Swans got pick 44 and a future end of 1st round pick, which you probably expect to be a top 5 draft pick regardless. But I still feel like Dylan Stephens, a promising youngster, heaps of footy left in him. He'll probably be a really good player. But yeah, I think this is certainly good for North Melbourne and what they're trying to achieve. Just getting as many young quality players as they can and just develop them. Just ensure that they become good players for them and bleed games into the youth. So not a bad deal, I don't think, for North Melbourne. Now, this deal was always going to happen. Of course, it was Brodie Grundy heading to Sydney in exchange for pick 46 and a future 2nd round draft pick. I'd have to say Sydney probably win this one, to be honest with you, because Grundy, Obviously didn't really show how good of a player he was at the Demons because of the fact that Gawn was in the side ahead of him. But I feel like as a standalone ruckman, after the Hickey retirement, definitely filling a need for Sydney. And I think the Swans could have him for a good 3 to 4 plus years. It just didn't work, the dual ruckman between Gawn and Grundy. But for Sydney, it shouldn't really be an issue for Grundy. And I think, again, for the Swans, this was a win for them. They didn't have to give up heaps. And they got the man that they wanted, a great player. Speaking of the Swans getting good deals, they got another pretty good deal here in acquiring Taylor Adams from the Pies in exchange for pick 33. I couldn't tell you who won this deal, to be honest with you. Obviously, Taylor Adams, in the back end of his career, not going to be playing heaps more footy left in him, but he's still a very serviceable player. Will certainly be in the Swans' best 22, and the Swans have been always looking to bolster their midfield. So I've got Grundy, obviously Jordan earlier probably play, and Taylor Adams will be right in there in the midfield. Obviously sort of falling out of Collingwood in a way. Of course Collingwood wanted to keep him, but Adams did request a trade to the Swans. The deal got done pretty easily, and now Taylor Adams is a Swan alongside Grundy. They can reunite as former teammates. Zach Fisher then went on his way to North Melbourne in exchange for pick 21 and pick 25. However, North Melbourne also received pick 17 alongside Fisher, which you would have to say they won that trade considering that they always wanted to sort of move up the draft order and then getting a better draft pick. So getting pick 17 in the process, as well as a pretty good player in Zach Fisher, who probably come the end of the season for Carlton wasn't in their best 22 and started to fall out of favour a little bit. I think still Zach Fisher, for North Melbourne certainly, best 22 player. So North Melbourne doing pretty well so far this trade period. Like they're winning in every way, shape, or form. Then Adelaide got the man that they were looking for in Chris Burgess, as well as pick 14 in exchange for picks 25 and picks 25 for Gold Coast. So again, you'd have to look at this and go, well, Adelaide probably won this one. But at the same time, Gold Coast do need as many draft picks in hand as they can get in order to match the bids for the academy players that they're looking for this draft. Quite a few that they have in mind. So yeah, Chris Burgess not really having too much game time in the last couple of seasons. He did win the leading goal kicker though for the VFL in the last 2 years. So you could say that he's definitely got proven worthiness of being a good player up forward. A decent deal to be made, and the fact that they also got pick 14 on top of that, Crows will be saying that it's a pretty good win for them. Now this one obviously was always going to be happening for quite some time. Jade Gresham leaving the Saints, and he headed his way over to the Bombers, requesting a trade there as a free agent. And the Saints in return got an end of first round compensation pick, which ended up being pick 21. Now obviously as a Saints supporter, I have a bit more of a say in this one, and I don't mind this trade at all, to be honest. I think the Saints, you could almost say, won the deal. I don't know if Gresham is that good of a player, at least over the last couple of years. He's been quite an average, selfish player that just made too many mistakes in terms of ball use. You're going to get a half-decent player for pick 21. You never know, you could get a player better than Gresham. And the next one wasn't talked about really at all. I mean, it wasn't posted on the AFL's Instagram, so they didn't make any mention of this one, but it's still a trade that did end up occurring, and Toby Pink went on his way to the Swans as an unrestricted free agent. He was on the Swans list for 3 years, but didn't play a game on the rookie list. I don't really know too much about this player. I've never seen him play a game, but he's a key defender, and given how weak North Melbourne is currently in terms of their key defensive stocks, yeah, he probably might play some games next year for North Melbourne. We then saw Brisbane's Tom Fullerton head to the D's in exchange for pick 47. I think for Melbourne, not the worst deal at all to get. I think Fullerton wants a bit more, playing time, sort of falling out of favour of the Lions, a bit of a fringe player, but he's capable of playing in the ruck position. I think he can actually play some games for the D's. I mean, he can be backup ruckman for Gawn if he's injured, or if, they want to play two ruckman, or he can, play it forward. Tyler Brockman then went on his way to West Coast, getting back to WA. It was always sort of going to happen, requesting a trade back there, and the Hawks didn't really get heaps in return. Pick 44 and pick 63. I almost feel like Brockman's a bit better than a player worth those two picks. But I think Brockman for the Hawks this year has been a pretty handy, serviceable small forward for them. A bit of a loss for Hawthorn, given they want to hold on to as many young players as they can. And then North Melbourne continuing to be busy this trade period, picking up another player, and they got Bigoa Newen from Richmond in exchange for pick 65. He's a key defender from Kenya. He's only played the one game of AFL, so of course probably not going to have as much opportunity at Richmond, and since he's probably not worth much, Richmond are happy to let him go. North, probably more opportunities at North Melbourne, so you'd expect him, if he can, maybe develop a little bit more, play some more games in the VFL, he could be serviceable for them. Now, the 18th player to move clubs so far was Lachie Schultz, and this was a pretty big trade when it happened. Obviously, a big shock when he requested a trade back home to Victoria, to Collingwood. And I wouldn't say Collingwood necessarily needed him, but they're going to take him. He's a very, very good player for Fremantle, and he'll definitely be in their best 22. But it becomes a bit of a worry for Freo with their player retention. Over the last 7-8 years, so many players for Fremantle have left. Blake Acres last year, Henry this year, but I think this is one of their worst ones they've let go in quite some time. Schultz has been probably their best player when it comes to score involvements over the last few years. He's just such a vital part of Fremantle's forward line, I feel, Lockie Schultz. And the fact that now he's gone, there's going to be an even bigger hole in their forward line. Can't really replace a player like that, given how influential he's been for them over the last few years. Talking about Freo letting go of players, the next trade we saw was Freo letting go of Liam Henry. Although this is always going to happen, he requested a trade before the end of the season. Obviously heading to the Saints, and I'll take that in exchange for a future second and a future fourth. So Saints win that trade. I know Henry probably hasn't lived up to the hype that he was as a top 10 draft pick at Fremantle. In fact, Fremantle fans never really liked Liam Henry. He had a good season this year, but people think that maybe he only had a good season, so he can head over to another club. You know, bleed more games into him. I think he can work a lot better under Ross Lyon and the other Indigenous players on that club, like Hill, Wayne Malera. We also saw a few trades occur on the Tuesday as well. 20th being Shane McAdam heading from Adelaide to Melbourne, and return the Crows received a future second rounder. Now, I'm not too sure about this one. I don't know if McAdam necessarily needs to join the Demons. He's probably going to play a lot of AFL footy there, but I think he can be, a solid addition if you get some, good games going and find some game time, because I feel like he'd probably get more opportunity at the Crows, but that's just me. And then we also saw a massive deal involving 4 clubs, which saw Paddy Dow finally head to St Kilda, which was always expected, and we also saw Nick Caulfield head to the Dogs from the Saints, which was also expected. Now, I would like to explain the trade, but it's the most recent one. It only happened like 30 minutes ago from filming. Just looking at this graphic right here, a lot of future picks are involved. Essendon getting a few picks. The Bulldogs obviously receiving Nick Caulfield, giving away a pick 40. Saints giving away a pick 35. It's confusing, but if we quickly look at the 2 trades, Paddy Dow for starters, I think he's going to be a good addition to the Saints. Saints need young midfielders, so there's a young midfielder, only 23. I know he hasn't really proven himself as a player yet, as a highly touted top 3 draft pick. However, I feel like he's sort of building his form. Never really made it in the Carlton side, but had a good strong finish the season last year. It could be a good sign for the Saints. And then Nick Caulfield, I thought another promising player. He was a top 10 draft pick, but he really couldn't really string any momentum going after 2020. But yeah, just didn't really play any footy since 2021 through injuries. And in result, the Saints got pretty much next to nothing for a player that still has a lot of talent in Caulfield, who goes to the Dogs. And that does finish all the trades up until Tuesday, with obviously heaps to go tomorrow, and we'll quickly go through them club by club. For Adelaide, they're pretty much settled with what they've gotten. They've got a pretty hefty draft count at the moment with picks 10, 14 and 20. Obviously offloading Duty and getting 14 from Gold Coast. There are some sources suggesting they might make another play for Harrison Petty, but it's pretty much a 0% chance of happening, to be honest. Now the Lions, of course, we heard the news recently. Jack Gunston moved to the Lions for 1 year. Wants to come back to Hawthorn. However, I think there's a very strong chance he'll stay. He obviously is contracted, but I just don't think it meets the list requirement for Hawthorn. I don't think Hawthorn want Jack Gunston. Carlton will currently make a play for top 10 draftee Elijah Holland, which for them will be a very good get. I think they're most likely going to secure him, but it'll be one of those late trades that occur tomorrow. I think they'll probably use either picks 21 or picks 25 that they got from Fisher. Now, as we talk about the Pies, it looks like Ginnivan might be on his way out. Now, of course, after the Schultz deal with the Pies, there was so many speculations suggesting that, Ginnivan was on his way out, that he might be requesting a trade. The Pies shut that down pretty early, saying that he's, here to stay at the Pies, that he's committed. But recently, this is as recent as the news gets for this video, the last hour pretty much, Ginnivan, seems to be having strong links with Hawthorn at the moment, talking with club officials, and he might genuinely be on his way out at Hawthorn at the moment, wanting to go back to the side that he supported when he was a kid. And if that deal does go through, which it very much could on the last day, there is a chance that maybe Jack Billings, who was, on the radar for Collingwood, could maybe come to them. Now, Essendon, they've already been massive players this trade period, securing the likes of Gresham, Mackay, Goldstein. However, there's still a few more players that might be securing. Xavier Dersma from the Power, one of the big names, requesting a trade to Essendon. It looks like a straight swap might occur between him and Zirk Thatcher, who looks to be on his way out from the Bombers to the Power. So maybe some pick swaps could be done as well on top of that, which could help, the Power acquire Asava Radaglia. And then obviously Massimo D'Ambrosio has also been linked to the Hawks. It looks like he's strongly expected to head to Hawthorn for a later pick. Well, for Fremantle, I don't think they're making any more plays after tomorrow. I think they've been robbed quite enough, and I think they're just going to want to leave it at that. The Cats, well, obviously at the moment, the massive talks about Asava Radaglia and all that sort of stuff. I mean, they refused pick 23 from Port Adelaide. I don't really know why. I don't think Asava Radaglia is even worth pick 23, but apparently they want more. They requested Ollie Lord from Port Adelaide. That was rejected. Considering that Radaglia is uncontracted, if they can't get a deal done by tomorrow, there is a chance that Radaglia could leave the club without Geelong getting anything in return. Now, for Gold Coast so far in this trade period, they've tried to do their best in acquiring as many draft picks as they can and helping to match bids on some academy players that they're looking after in the draft. I think, 3 to 4. Chol's on the way out as well. He looks to be heading to Hawthorn for, I think, a 4-year deal. So that's pretty much confirmed. It's just going to be done, I reckon, tomorrow. And as mentioned briefly earlier as well, it looks like Elijah Hollands is on his way out of the Suns, heading to Carlton to join his brother Ollie. As we discussed the Giants, it looks like they're striving still to secure Himmelberg to join his brother from the Crows after they lost Matt Flynn. However, with the Crows, pretty much not a chance to secure Petty, and with the fact that they're not going to be able to secure Chol either, it looks like there's a fairly strong chance that Himmelberg might be staying, and if that's the case, it'll mean that Lockie Keefe can receive another contract for next year if Himmelberg stays at the Crows. And another player the Giants are looking into that could possibly be selected is Orazio Fantasia to possibly sign a rookie contract from Port Adelaide. Now, this is probably one of the busier clubs over the next day, I feel like. Hawthorn at the moment are eyeing on quite a few players and a few departing the club, but obviously right now the big news, as I said before, with Ginnivan. The Hawks are eyeing down a possible 4-year deal with Jack Ginnivan to join the club, which would be massive news, considering this really wasn't anything talked about a few hours ago, but it looks like, you know, both parties want the deal to be done. The Hawks are also going to be heavily involved in a 3-way deal that involve Richmond and Gold Coast. So pretty much Jacob Kaczynski, he looks to be on his way out. He'll be heading to Richmond. Richmond will be giving Hawthorn a pick in which they can use to trade for Chol, which they look to be setting on a 4-year contract. So it might be Chol, Ginnivan possibly as well. And as mentioned earlier, they look to be securing Massimo D'Ambrosio as well for not that much either. With Jack Gunston, as talked about earlier, also wanting to return. I think the Jack Gunston deal is less than 15% of a chance of happening at the moment. Hawthorn don't value him as a list need, and if they're going to be getting players like Ginnivan, Chol, why would they want Gunston? They don't want, mature age talent the way they've been recruiting, so I don't think that's going to be happening. Melbourne, I think they've done what they needed to in terms of recruiting players and offloading players. It looks like they've been trying to move up the draft table, and still they're a team that might be making that play for pick 1. It looks like North Melbourne will also probably not be making too many more players this trade period. However, North Melbourne are still trying to make that play for the number 1 draft pick from West Coast, which they could still secure. They've got a lot of high draft picks at the moment, picks 2, 3, quite a few in the teens as well, so it could be the case for them potentially if they want to make a deal with West Coast. Now, Port Adelaide, Jesus, they've got a lot still that haven't gotten done already. And I don't know if all the deals will be made from the looks of it. At the moment, Port Adelaide seem to be the busiest team ahead of tomorrow. For starters, Xavier Dersma looks like he'll be joining Essendon on a 4-year contract, with Zerk Thatcher likely coming in at the other end of the deal to help replenish defensive stocks. They're still slow on that Radaglia deal, as mentioned before. Geelong do not want pick 25. They want something better than that. Jordan Sweet and Evan Soldo are 2 players that look like they might be leaving their clubs to head to Port Adelaide. And if that does happen, there's a very good chance that Scott Lysett might be out the door again to find another club, as well as Sam Hayes. And then Fantasia, as mentioned before, he could be a decent chance of heading to the Giants as well. Now for Richmond, they're going to be getting Jacob Kaczynski. However, the Hawks seem to want a top 25 pick for him, and the Tigers don't believe that he's worth that much. And I agree. He's not worth top 25 pick, but the deal should be done tomorrow regardless. And then Soldo as well. He looks to really want to leave Port Adelaide, but Richmond, they're adamant at the moment on keeping him. So I think right now, personally, he's around a 50-50 chance to leave Richmond to head to Port. Well, the Saints, they've certainly been heavy players this trade period so far, particularly compared to last year. And especially the last day or two, they've been making their play in a few deals. The Liam Henry deal, the Paddy Dow deal, and Nick Caulfield deal, leaving to the Dogs as well. So at the moment, the only player that I really think has any chance of leaving the club or coming to the club right now from the talks are Jack Billings. And there's a chance that maybe Colin could take him. It's a lowest chance, but with the Ginnivan, deal sort of coming more real, there's possibly more of a chance the Pies have a list spot available for Billings if that were to be the case. And if that were to be the case, well, the Saints are fine of offloading him. Sydney's certainly a side that have been the big winners this trade period, and it's looking like it's going to stay that way with them not making any more moves. The Eagles, well, they managed to snag Flynn and Brockman for peanuts, which was good for them. It doesn't seem like they've got any more involvement this trade period, with their main focus now on whether or not they're going to be keeping pick 1. So that's going to be an interesting discussion over the next few weeks. The Dogs will obviously just picked up Nick Caulfield in one of the last trades to occur, and they might be possibly receiving a second rounder or an early third for Jordan Sweet, which looks very likely to head to Port Adelaide. And apparently delisted free agent Hayden Crozier, still speculations possibly that he might be heading to a new club, maybe Carlton if there is interest for him. Well, that wraps everything that there is to know currently. What's the date? Tuesday, as of Tuesday night of the trade period. So this is why this video is out a little bit later. Look, like last year, I want to get a few more trade videos out. So tomorrow, or maybe actually tomorrow, I'll do the trade live stream where I go through the deadline day. That's always interesting. Like, all the stuff I've discussed is going to happen tomorrow, possibly. Then on the Thursday, I'll be doing a full trade period wrap-up, going through the ins and outs, the draft picks like I did last year as well. And then on Friday, I'll be going through all the trades on Tiermaker and ranking them on which ones I think are the best and which ones I think are the worst. So yeah, anyways, thanks everyone for watching the video. Remember, subscribe if you've enjoyed and you want to see more trade period content. Less than 50% of the people watching the channel are subscribed, so let's get the figure to over 50%. It has to happen, surely. But anyways, I'll see you soon in the next one. Thanks.